elements at play. However, you'll hear today from everyone that we do believe the importance that this camp plays in our city and all the different perspectives that come from it. Later on, after I'm done, I'll be introducing all of the specific demands or asks from the residents who are at the camp. And at the very end, we will also be hearing the direct statements from the residents who were unable to be here due to work complications or anything else like that. Sometimes nerves. Today is their eviction day, and it is a spectacle, and we do need to be respectful of that as much as we may want them here directly with us. The goal of today's conference is really to build trust and a direct line or bridge of communication with the people at the camp and all homeless people around the city, with the mayor's office and with the governor's office as well. Mostly of what they want is just to be in communication with. That's the idea here, is that they need to be included into these conversations, and the isolation of these conversations is the discrimination that they are facing right now. Yeah, they want to build that bridge. Basically, on May 28th, we held a all-camp meeting. This meeting had about, I would say, 80% of the residents involved. Lots of different things were discussed, but what I'm about to read was the things that came from that meeting, that they want to start the relationship with the city and with the state to let them know these are the things that they care about and that these are the things they expect and deserve as residents of Nashville. The first is the reinstallation of the porta potties that were there during COVID. These things are extremely important to them for safety and sanitation reasons. They demand all updates or maintenance on their removal or sustainability, and a 90-day warning for negotiation purposes or for, and just in advance. They also demand a non-police monitoring presence. Safety is something that they are very aware is an issue at the camp, and they are far more concerned about it than any of us may seem to be ourselves. Let's see. They believe that some type of community presence that they trust could bring a much greater form of de-escalation centered. Let's see. They need to know what the future of the camp is. Like I said earlier, that direct line of communication is extremely important to them, and they need to be included in that process. The residents on Jefferson Street Bridge will be notified and in negotiation with any future Jefferson Street Bridge closures and maintenance of the camp itself. And they demand a safe place to exist. That's an extremely important element of what they need. The specific statement here is, our ability to camp under the Jefferson Street Bridge will not change the fact that we are homeless. Regardless of the camp's future, we will need a safe, stable place to exist. Closing the camp before this will not be responsible. I want to move things on to Candy Christmas and the Bridge Ministry, who have been serving the camp under the Jefferson Street Bridge for numerous years. Candy?
Hi there, I'm Candy Christmas. I'm founder and CEO of the Bridge Ministry. I would like to start out by just reading a scripture. Thank you. I'm Candy Christmas, founder and CEO of the Bridge Ministry. We've been serving under the bridge for the last 17 years, and I would like to start out what I have to say with a scripture. Those who oppress the poor insult their maker, but those who are kind to the needy honor him. This is Proverbs 14:31. For the last 17 years, we've been holding church services under the Jefferson Street Bridge for the homeless and for the working poor of Nashville. I like to tell people that we have the most beautiful and the most expensive church sanctuary in all of Nashville, right under that 7 lanes of bridge there. I've seen many lives changed under that bridge. I feel like that the homeless people feel that the bridge ministry is their church, where they are not welcome sometimes to go into church buildings, or because they have past records that would keep them out of sanctuaries and go into churches. They are safe and feel that the bridge ministry or the bridge is literally a sanctuary, a safe place for them. So I've seen lives changed. I've seen criminals come to Christ. We have a wonderful worship service. We preach a message of hope of Jesus Christ. I've seen criminals who have stolen cars and all kinds of things, drug addicts, come to the knowledge of Jesus Christ. And hopefully, because of that bridge and because of the worship that is under that bridge, the crime rate has gone down in Nashville. I would like to be able to continue to serve the poor, to serve the homeless under that bridge. I feel like that it's a very important spot for the working poor and the homeless to come and to receive resources of food, life-sustaining resources for their families and for themselves. And so I'm asking that we do not put a fence around that bridge. On the base of our Statue of Liberty, it says, "Bring me your huddled masses, those longing to be free." And so I feel like that the bridge ministry, if you will, is kind of a statue, a monument to the less fortunate of Nashville. We live in the great city of Nashville, the great state of Tennessee, the volunteer state. I've had so many people come and volunteer and help who have a heart for the homeless, and I feel like that bridge is a monument to the safety of the less fortunate of the city of Nashville. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Candy, so much. We really appreciate that. Thank you for touching on the elements of this camp acting as a nexus for all resources to come to help people there. Next, we want to bring on Maggie Cox from NOAH, a faith-based organization that has a long history of helping people here in the city. Maggie?
I'm Maggie Cox with the Affordable Housing Task Force of NOAH. We are advocating for $30 million over each year for 3 years for the Barnes Fund to provide housing. The more housing that we provide, the more housing there is for the lower income people too. We're also advocating for a plan, and that plan would have a piece in it about housing for the homeless. It would be something that we could hold our elected officials accountable to. And I would also say that in my volunteering work with the Room in the Inn at Christ Church Cathedral, most of the men that come in there have jobs. These are people who are working and trying their best. We're just not providing housing for them. They all deserve housing, and they deserve our respect, and they deserve safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie, so much for reiterating the importance of these people have a right to exist, and they are Nashvillians, and we need to see them as such. Next, I want to bring on Theda, a member of the Nashville People's Budget Coalition, a member of which Open Table is as well. Theda?
Good afternoon. My name is Theda Murphy. I'm an organizer with the Black Nashville Assembly, which is a part of the Nashville People's Budget Coalition. And I wanted to come out in support of Open Table and the other organizations who have been working with the people who don't have stable housing in this city. And I wanted to say, this afternoon, later on this evening, we will be showing up to speak as a community about a government that prioritizes policing and caging people over housing and healing people. We live in this city, and somehow those of us who are without homes, those of us who are working class, have found a way to build communities, even if those communities are under a bridge, where we have home. This city is our home. We live here, and we're not going anywhere. We just want to live in peace and not have the police be the only service from the government that serves us. That's not right. So, thank you for coming up. Thank you for showing up. And let's do better as a city.
Thank you, Theda, so much for touching on the importance of the city budget and how that plays into homelessness and the importance of prioritizing affordable housing as well. Next, I want to bring on Ryan Lampa from People Loving Nashville. They directly serve people, are very famous for holding large events at the War Memorial, and they are a crucial member of our community. Ryan?
Hello everybody. My name is Ryan Lampa again. I'm the co-founder and executive director of a local outreach called People Loving Nashville. We've been serving folks on the streets for the last 13 years here, and we're honored to do so. We come weekly with hospitality that has led to really rich community and kinship with our friends here that are living on the streets. Weekly we gather to bring relief, community, and connection to the much needed resources. And through these gatherings, we've been able to walk alongside the most resilient and brave of our city. These individuals are walking through some of the hardest times of their life. And I think that's one thing that we need to just rest in for a moment. This is a really tough time for our folks that are living outside. We're honored to labor alongside all the agencies and organizations, both represented here and throughout the city. A human being's existence battling hunger and safety, dehydration and shelter is dizzying. Even after all this time, it still baffles us as a community that serves those in need, the strength of the neighbors to keep one foot in front of the other. We're no experts on eliminating homelessness or holding back the forces that keep people down. We most definitely do not have all the answers to the right way of addressing every situation. However, we do realize that there are more dignifying and humane ways to walk with our neighbors in need. We ask that the city not criminalize living under Jefferson Street Bridge. We ask that there be more time to walk through the delicate challenges of our neighbors. And in the meantime, restore much needed dignity for the people living there, like restoring the toilets that were there before. We ask for more clear communication, more direct communication and participation with the community that's living there. These are residents just like you and I. Let it be known that we honor all those who come to do their best in serving the unhoused, and we by no means want to vilify anyone here. There's no individual or no individual kind of person responsible for what we're seeing here. These challenges our community faces are dynamic, delicate, and complex. All issues we all see are issues that we as a community can address. There's a massive shortage of units that are attainable to our neighbors living outside. Currently, there's a large amount of funding that is specifically allocated to house the most vulnerable, but there's just not enough units available. We ask our government to allocate more funds for the creation of attainable housing for the lowest income citizens of our city. This is not just an issue the government needs to solve either. We can all play a part, one unit at a time, in curing our attainable housing crisis. We would love to see more landlords, developers, investors participate in this. This is just calling out all of us, the entire city. There are currently financial incentives for landlords who offer their units to be attainable for the most vulnerable of our city. I'll personally connect you with the proper channels if you're hearing this and you want to make a difference. Simply put, we just need more units. We need more people with the power to be able to provide housing, to provide it. It's simple. If you own a unit, I will connect you to the right people. I'll put my email address right here. It's ryan@peoplelovingnashville.com. You send me a direct email, I'll connect you with people, and there's financial incentives for you. We're called by scriptures to feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, and give clothing to those who need it. We're called to bring love and dignity and bind up wounds. We work hard to do that every week in our city. We pray that God continues to sustain the bravest and most resilient, as we pray for those who can lend their talents and resources to do so for the poor, that their hearts and minds may be softened and led to do the right thing. Thank you, guys.
That was beautiful, Ryan. Thank you so much. You're really valued in this community. Next, I want to bring on Ben Watcher from the Red Door Collective, a new housing group here in Nashville, they're working directly with tenants in order to confront the issues that they are facing. Benj?
Good afternoon. I would like to start by thanking Open Table Nashville for allowing me to speak briefly regarding the eviction of the community living under the Jefferson Street Bridge. I'm a member, as Edward said, of Red Door Collective. We are organizing with tenants around Nashville area who experience the pains caused by a system that has prioritized private property and passive income over the lives of people. We fully believe that housing should not be a commodity, and we all deserve dignified housing at any level in life. Our neighbors under the Jefferson Street Bridge represent a community, one that has been ignored for far too long. Speaking with residents, they talk about the trust and protection they feel amongst themselves while sleeping under the bridge. When a member of the community is lost, they grieve. When someone is in need, they work together to provide. Many are working to find housing, but the system that has put them under the bridge to actually give them the support they need. Often these individuals must struggle with multiple applications, fill out bureaucratic forms, and provide every piece of ID that can be required. Then, if they are lucky, they get put on a waiting list. Speaking to a resident last night, he told me his story of being hospitalized after a motorcycle accident. While in the hospital, his slumlord took the opportunity to break their verbal agreement and evict this gentleman. For years, his landlord accepted cash and exploited this man's labor, but in his time of need, discarded their agreement and forced him under the bridge. He told me, "I'm not living, I'm sleeping here." Too often these eviction stories are not heard because residents are living in desperation. They face a system that does not accept their past mistakes and offer restoration, but uses violence to displace them. We need to do better in Nashville. At the beginning of May, an eviction notice was posted at the entrance of this camp. A manufactured metal sign stating no encampments after June 1st. Much like our legal system, little else was said and almost no explanations were given. In the illegal eviction process, we see people self-evict or leave when they see threats of violence. But where is this community to go? For too long, we have seen task forces created and incentives given the landlord and property owners, but the voices of those who experience the violence of our system are ignored and pushed further and further away from the resources afforded to those with means. I simply ask our city, what are you going to do? The housing difficulties we are facing were not created overnight, and they won't be solved that way either. Continuing to displace humans without answers will only further exasperate the violence. We must do better. We must listen to those who are telling us, I won't be kicked to the bushes. Some of their asks are simple. Return the porta-john that was removed from the site. Put up a privacy barrier to hide the camp. Greatest of all, they are simply asking for the community to be protected until some real answers can be given. Meanwhile, our community should question this path and should observe how other cities are successfully solving these problems. And finally, speak and hold court with the individuals most affected by these failures to formulate real solutions. We have been recently developing Nashville based primarily on property speculation that creates hundreds of purposefully empty housing solutions, some of these sitting straight across the street from that homeless camp. Our city can take real steps to broker deals and create housing and job solutions for our community. It will require transparent leadership and devotion to the needs of our neighbors over the disproportionate attention to property values and property owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Bench, for touching on the true systematic elements of lots of these issues that we're facing. Next, I want to welcome Ingrid Mcintyre, who is doing very similar work in trying to fill in the gaps in a system that is failing lots and lots of people at the Village at Glencliff. Ingrid?
Good morning, Nashville. My name is Ingrid Mcintyre, and I am a clergy person in the United Methodist Church. But this morning, I want to call on all people of faith. All people of faith. I don't care what your creed is. People of faith have a calling to serve people who have been oppressed, people who have been shoved to the margins, people whose voices have been left out of conversations. And I happen to know that in this city, people of faith hold positions of great power. And we need to use our power to affect systemic change. The reason that people are living under the bridge is not because they choose to live under the bridge. It is because we have broken systems in our healthcare system, because we have not expanded healthcare in the state of Tennessee. We have broken systems in our budgets because we tend to prioritize those in power and those of privilege over those without. Our broken systems have marginalized people to the edges where they feel like they have no hope. As a person of faith, hope is what keeps me going a lot of times. And so what I would like to do is call on every person of faith in this community to say we want to live hope. We want to embody what love and justice looks like. And what love and justice looks like when our siblings are under a bridge without a place to stay is solidarity. I do not think that the bridge is a great place for people to live. I think we need more affordable housing in this town. And I think if given the opportunity for their own home, most of the people under the bridge would take that opportunity. These are siblings who some of us have been traveling with, like Candy said, for 17 years, for 13 years, for 15 years. They are our siblings. Would we stand by when our brothers or our uncles or our sisters or our nieces don't have a place to use the restroom? What? Have any of you ever been sick before and needed a place just for basic sanitation and hygiene? Our friends and our siblings do not have that. A need for this to sink in with all of us, right? People of faith, I love that you come out and you stand with us sometimes. And my brothers and sisters who stand behind pulpits, you have voices that can share this message. Let's make change in our city that is a change with a just outcome, where we are listening to the very voices of people who are living under the bridge, not to my voice. Not to the voice of the mayor, not to the voice of the chief of police, but to the voices of the people who live under the bridge, who are experiencing isolation and anxiety. That's my call for today. I hope that we see some more action from our strong faith community. And I hope that you hear me say faith community, not just the Christians, although Christians, let's get it together, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid, for bringing in those elements of faith that a lot of us share, that we do want to see a better world, and how important that is to our identity. Next, I want to bring on Workers' Dignity and the Mosaic Warriors, who are working to fight for their rights and their personal empowerment at the Mosaic Apartments, specifically with Lucille Figueroa. Is that right?
Hi everyone, my name is Cecilia Prado. I am a co-director at Workers' Dignity Worker Center. And we are here to stand in solidarity with the Jefferson Street tenants, but also to share our story. I am here standing with Lucina from the group Mosaic Warriors, who were illegally evicted last week with a 3-day notice over the phone, with the excuse of a fake government inspection that was actually all lies. Here is Lucina to tell you more about what is going on.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Lucina Figueroa. Vengo representando a todas mis compañeras que hemos sido afectadas de los mosaicos.
Para que pueda yo traducir poquito a poquito. Hi, my name is Lucina Figueroa. I am here in representation of my comrades who were all affected by the mass evictions at Mosaic Apartments.
Somos 90 personas que hemos sido afectadas por esos departamentos que nos están corriendo. A mí tengo 3 días para salirme. Mi esposo tiene cáncer, tengo 2 niños pequeños a mi responsabilidad y me están dando 3 días para salirme.
So we are close to 90 families affected by these mass evictions. I myself have 3 days to leave my apartment. I have 2 children. I have a husband with cancer. And obviously I have not been able to find a place to go.
Y así estamos varias personas que nos ha llegado esta carta dándonos poquitos días para salirnos. Tengo una vecina, nos intimidan con llamarle a la policía, que si no nos salemos, la policía nos va a venir a sacar.
So recently, after pressure, we received a letter that gave us an extension of 2 weeks, but that's still not enough to find a new place to live. When they tried to evict us with lies and intimidation last week, what they told us is that if we didn't leave, they will call the police. So they usually intimidate us with threats of the police for us to actually, for us to leave and do what they say.
Y por favor les pido ayuda, que nos ayuden a llamarle a Jennifer, ¿qué?
Jennifer Pascual.
Jennifer Pascual, que es la que va a ser la directora. Por favor, ayúdenos, les pedimos ayuda.
So right now, after the public pressure, and I'm adding a little bit myself, Cecilia, a little bit of context, neighbors decided that 2 weeks was not enough. When they first tried to evict tenants last week, folks were not receiving their security deposits back. They were not given any written notice of the eviction, and they were told that if they didn't abide and didn't leave, that they were going to call the police, and police was going to evict them themselves, and especially the sheriff. Neighbors organized, and management sent a letter saying that neighbors will receive $1,500, and they will actually get 2 weeks of extension, not 3 days, to leave the apartment. But only if they negotiated these terms in private with Jennifer Pascual, who is the director, the regional director at Village Green Management, and with Jennifer McCoy, who is the lawyer. Jennifer McCoy is one of the 3 lawyers responsible for 70% of evictions in Nashville. Thank you, Red Door Collective, for that data. So neighbors are asking for open negotiations, and Lucina is asking for everybody, and all my friends are asking to call Jennifer Pascual, who is the assistant director at Village Green Management, 513-672-8600, and to accept the pledge of Mosaic tenants, asking for open negotiations with all of the tenants of Mosaic Apartments. No private negotiations. And by the way, she's watching our Facebook Live. What's up, Jenny? Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Justice.
Thank you so much. It's always great to have siblings in arms who are fighting the same fight that we are, share what they're working on. There is a large systematic housing crisis at play that affects everyone, and most people are at some level housing insecure. Next, I want to bring on Lindsay Krinks, who is going to share with us some of the residents' thoughts and feelings.
Thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to share a couple statements from the residents, and then we're going to hear from a couple of our friends that have experienced homelessness, one across the street from the Jefferson Street Bridge, and then we're going to close this out. Now, one of the residents that really wanted to be here today is working, so he sent us the points that he wanted us to cover. I also want to say that Open Table Nashville stands in solidarity with everyone in the city that is facing unjust evictions, and it is beautiful to see tenants coming together with camp residents in solidarity. This is the kind of action that we need. It's what we need to be building in the city. So this statement is from Darren. He spoke about how the Jefferson Street Bridge provides a sanctuary. He said many of us survived the tornado because it's hard to find shelter when you can't stay in the missions that is protected like that. He said it's really important to them to be able to keep their space clean, so they need the things like we do. They need porta potties. They need trash pickup, just like we have trash pickup at our houses. He said this is one of the few camps that you can safely park your car at. That's another reason that this space is so important to them. He said so many people are just one paycheck away from my position. He says housing is too expensive, and this is a direct quote I'm going to read. $700 ain't shit for my SSI minimum. Rent should be lower. Thank you, Darren. He said we need to change Metro budget so there's more money for affordable housing. And we're not just talking about workforce housing, which we need. We're talking about low-income housing for folks 0 to 60% area median income, right? Like Darren. He said Nashville's a volunteer state, but it feels different here. Things are getting ugly. He said I can't stay at the shelter because he's a couple. He's with his partner. He said people need options. There's no perfect camp for everybody, but moving them to Tent City is not an alternative. He said Tent City's a time bomb. We know one of the lots was just sold to a luxury developer, luxury condo developer. That camp is on a time frame now, right? He said they're also by the floodwaters. If you move people there, it's just going to be in the same boat, and there's going to be more people and more crowds. One other resident wanted to share a couple of his thoughts. His name is Sarge. He said, there are a lot of churches and communities that help people and want to keep coming down here. He said the camp acts as a place where people can come to help them and community can build. He also said the churches and providers that come are a great influence on them to help them connect with jobs. He says, I hope they don't close the camp, but this is my place of worship as much as it is my home. I want to bring two more people up, and then we're going to close this out. I'm going to ask Clarissa to share briefly about her experiences under the bridge, and then I'm going to ask my friend Howard to share. He stayed across from the bridge for years.
Hi, my name is Clarissa Hayes. First of all, I used to help Candy Christmas under the bridge every Tuesday nights, volunteering. And Monday nights, I used to help people live in Nashville. Now I'm off the streets. Thank God for that. I'm off the streets, and people keep telling me to get off the streets, and I took their advice. First of all, it hurts when I see the people trying to leave under the bridge. It hurts so bad, so please keep everybody in your prayers under that bridge. Especially one person that we lost named Bobby. He died of a seizure. So I appreciate y'all just doing that for me and keep me in your prayers at all times. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Howard Allen, co-founder of the Nashville Homeless Underground, and I'm an alumnus of the Jefferson Street Bridge. One of the best things that ever happened to me under the Jefferson Street Bridge was I got married by the Bridge Ministry while they were feeding. Well, let me tell you something. You know, they say a picture paints 1,000 words. But when they shut down this encampment, the one word that I come up with is torture. Because that's what it is. You lose hope, you can't have a place to sleep, and that's a human right. That's a community. That's where people love, they have grace for each other. And one of the things that we know for a fact, those that rule cannot operate profit over people. Right. And that's what this is. We went through a tornado, and then 6 days later there was a pandemic called the coronavirus. But we were living there, and we've been living there for over a year. And now all of a sudden, they want to shut down an encampment. We're not going anywhere because we have nowhere to go, because they say it's inconvenient. We're often talked about, but never talked to. And that's wrong. This is a people thing. And if you want to see what humanity is really like, you need to go down to the camp, because those marginalized people that society calls homeless can show you, those that are housed and government and big business, what humanity really is. Now, what I would love to say to the government, the state, and to the local government, the council and the mayor, you have land. Give us some land where we can put up our tents, because everybody can't go into a shelter. And that community is a safe place. It's shelter, it's a storage place, and a place of safety. Today, of all days, from my understanding, they're not gonna shut down the camps today because of the news media. But they're coming, because we've seen this action before with Fort Negley. And you know what today is? Today is the birthday for the state of Tennessee, 225 years old today. That's a heck of a day to try to evict someone. We know, I'm gonna change this a little bit, homeless lives matter. Homeless lives matter. I thank everybody for coming out. You need to write, you need to talk, we need to take a stand, because we're not going anywhere. Where can we go? We have nowhere to go. And it's not just here, it's in the United States. It's an epidemic. You've taken our hand washing machines, our showers. But as soon as the corona came, we had all that. But we're still standing, and we're gonna arise above this, because we're resilient. We're surviving. We're not living. And as I said, you know, one of the greatest things that happened to me January 11th, I was able to move in my place. But I will never, ever forget my brothers and sisters, because that's my family. Thank you.
Howard said it all, and you've heard everything here. We believe housing is a human right, but until people get housing in this city, they have a right to exist. And we are standing in solidarity together to demand answers, to ask for the voices of the residents to be heard, and their asks to be heard by our city. We're going to close out with a chant, and so some of y'all know this, some of y'all it'll be a little new. The chant's very simple, and I'm asking everybody to join with me. Nashville, stand up and fight. Housing is a human right. Nashville, stand up and fight. Housing is a human right. Nashville, stand up and fight. Housing is a human right. Nashville, stand up and fight. Housing is a human right. Nashville, stand up and fight. Housing is a human right. Woo! Thank you to all of you who came and spoke and shared solidarity from your organizations. Thank you to the news media who is putting pressure on our elected officials to get answers. So thank you all.